Today we're going to learn how to use a button with our Raspberry Pi. And later on we're going to program that button to turn the LED on and off. But for now, let's just create code to check if our button is working. So what you're going to need is a breadboard, a button that has like 4 pins on the bottom, and you're going to need 2 jumper wires. Alright, let's construct our circuit now. First, you want to take your button. You're going to notice that there's 4 metal pins, and you're going to see there's 2 pairs of pins that are closest to each other. You're going to want to take those pins that are closest to each other and you want to put them in different rows. So you're going to insert it into your breadboard like this. Once your button's inserted into your breadboard, you're going to take your 2 jumper wires and you're going to connect one jumper wire to ground on your Raspberry Pi, and you're going to connect the other one to GPIO2. You can check online a Raspberry Pi pinout to check where those locations are on your Raspberry Pi. So we're going to need, again, ground and GPIO2 for your button. Once you have your jumper wires connected, we're going to take the wire that's connected to GPIO2 and we're going to connect it to this row on your button. Make sure they are on the same row as the metal pins on your button. Now you're going to take your ground jumper wire and you're just going to connect it to this negative terminal on your breadboard, just so that ground is fully connected onto this column over here. Once you have it connected, you can take another jumper wire and we're going to connect this row. It's right next to the other jumper wire, and we're going to connect it to ground. We're just going to put it in the same column as this wire over here. Once you have that done, your circuit for your button is fully constructed. Okay, once you have your circuit constructed, we can start coding. First off, I'm going to create a file called button.py. Then we're going to import our libraries, and we're going to use the library in our previous video. I'm going to use GPIO0, and we're going to import button. And we're also going to import from time, we're going to import sleep. Once you have that, we're going to initialize our button. Remember, we use GPIO2 for our button, so we're going to create a button variable. I'm going to set button to. Now we can create our while loop. Then we can check if this button is pressed. So we're going to put button dot is pressed. So if when it is pressed, we're just going to print out a sentence. We're just going to print out I am pressed, and we're going to sleep for a little bit. Once you have this code written out, you can run it, and if you press your button on the console, it's going to say I am pressed whenever you press your button. So let's go check that out. So I'm going to run my code, python.button press. So I'm going to press my button right now, and it's going to print out I am pressed. And if you see that on your console, then your code is working. Now let's get back to the circuit and let's add in an LED. Alright, once you confirm that your button is working, we can start adding in an LED. It's going to be the same circuit as we created before in the previous video where we made our LED blink. So we're just going to take our LED, make sure it's in a different row from your button. We're going to add in your resistor, make sure it's connected to the shorter end again. And we're going to use the same GPIO as the previous video. We're going to use GPIO21 for our LED. So I'm going to connect GPIO21 to the longer end of our LED. We're going to connect the other end of our resistor into ground. Once you have your LED circuit constructed, we can go back to our code and add in our LED. Let's get back into our code. First off, we need to add in our LED library. So on the first line, we're just going to add in LED. Next, below our button variable, we have to create another LED variable. We're going to say LED equals LED, and we're going to use GPIO21. Once you have your LED initialized, we can go below in this if statement and we can add in a line of code. We're going to add in LED.toggle, and that is it. So whenever the button is pressed, we're going to toggle this LED. So if we press the button right now, the LED is going to turn on, and if we press the button again, the LED will turn off. Now let's go check that out. You can start running your code right now, and you can check if your LED is going to be toggled when you press the button. When I press the button right now, the LED will turn on. If I press it again, it will turn off. If that is working for you, then congratulations, and you can move on to the next video.